Multiplex is essentially what they call the missing middle, from a single family home to 4 to 6 units, depending on size and location. Right? This is housing. Maybe sell a couple off to fund the project, keep a couple more, rent that for some long-term cash to help pay for their future.
Should we buy a multiplex in 2024? Well, today we're going to find out as we're here with Dan Wurtele, who's the top 1% in sales volume in all of Vancouver, and he's going to tell us whether it is the right decision to buy multiplex and what is really a multiplex.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So I think the biggest question is, what exactly is multiplex, right? So it's a provincial legislation. You may have heard it as Bill 44. You may have heard it as small-scale multi-unit housing initiative. And what it's done essentially is the province has said, look, each municipality, you're not building homes fast enough. We need density. So I'm just going to rezone every single family lot from a single family home to 4 to 6 units, depending on size and location, that type of thing. And its whole intent, of course, is to increase density and allow people to have multiple homes on their property where they can either sell them all, live in one, put the parents in another, kids in the third, sell off 1, 2, or 3 other ones, maybe hold them to rent to have some cash flow. All sorts of configurations are possible, but that's Bill 44 and multiplex in a nutshell.
What are the type of people that own multiplexes? Because it's not homeowners anymore, right? Is this start to become developers?
Yeah, so obviously you've got two sides of it. There's developers who will build the 6 units and just hold them for themselves, right, and rent them all out. We also see a lot of homeowners right now that own the single family. They're tearing those down, putting up 6 units, staying in one because they love the neighborhood or they love the school catchment, whatever it is, and then they will maybe sell a couple off to fund the project, keep a couple more, rent that for some long-term cash to help pay for their future.
Right, but most multiplexes especially in Vancouver right now, are they on the newer side or are there a lot of existing older multiplexes?
For sure. Well, one of the biggest investment vehicles we see people go after in this region is what's currently called multifamily, which would be like a low rise, like a 6, 12, 24 unit kind of condo building. Right? They're great, 1 roof, 1 boiler, 1 elevator, that type of thing. And that's kind of now opened up to more civilian developers type investors as well, where they can now kind of have just those 6 units or 4 units, whatever the case may be. And that can become a really great investment vehicle for them as well.
For these multiplexes where it is 46 units, does this start having its own strata rules, or how does that work?
Yeah, exactly. Of course, you do have to stratify. You can also look at a subdivision as well to piece some off. So there's multiple configurations. It really comes up to that homeowner and that developer and their future plans with it.
Well, this sounds quite complicated when someone's looking to buy multiplexes, as they're looking throughout different multiplexes that all have their own different stratas and rules.
Yeah.
So how do you go about that?
Talk to a professional first, right? You're right, it is complex, and whether you're going to just build it or buy it, you really need to understand the nuances and the intricacies within there, right? So realistically, there's a lot of people in it now, right? Multiplex isn't a new idea, it's just new as a blanket policy.
Right.
So I would certainly look to the people who have done it historically, or go and join a real estate investment type of group, and you'll learn pretty quick.
People have pretty much 3 options right now, right? They have their single detached.
Yeah.
Well, you can also have townhouses. Would that count as multiplexes?
It can, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And then there's multiplexes, and then there's high rise or low rise. So what is the difference of purchasing between these options?
Gotcha. So multiplex is essentially what they call the missing middle, right? So many homes in Vancouver are either, like you said, detached or high rise, right? So we've been missing these sort of middle-sized homes, right? These multiplex that are 4, 6, 10, 12 kind of units. Row homes are starting to pop up, and they are obviously well received because it's become like the new single family home. Well, again, now that we have more options, right? Because before the zoning was so restrictive and so minimal that, let's say, you could only have townhomes on an arterial road, for example. Now you have the option to put a multiplex near a school or closer to transit or in your backyard, in your neighborhood where you really like. So what it's done, it's not that it's different or better, it's that you now have more options.
How is the multiplexes compared to pre-sales or high rises?
So multiplex is kind of that in between, let's say the detached, kind of like a half duplex, for example, but kind of like a row home, but you typically will get a little bit more yard. So it's right in the middle. And what's interesting about your question here, Alex, is that it's somewhat unproven, in the sense that, yes, we've seen some townhomes, and yes, we have lots of duplexes in this town, but will 6 units on what was historically a single family lot be attractive, right? Are there going to be homeowners that are like, yeah, I'm okay with that size home and basically no yard and have 5 neighbors right beside me? So we're right on the edge of this, right? It was only enacted on June 30th.
Right.
So we're only 3.5 months in. So because we have such a lack of housing here, of course they're going to be sold, but now it's about market absorption. What's the kind of uptick on price point and desirability? really. So we're kind of at the forefront here, lots to be learned, but there's some people, you know, when things change this big, there's opportunity.
Well, with multiplexes and low rises, what do amenities look like for that? Because you definitely have a lower budget in density.
Exactly, yeah, you're not gonna expect amenities for the most part, right? This is housing, housing, housing. That's the policy, they want houses first.
How often are you gonna see detached homeowners start turning their own properties into multiplexes to rent out?
I would say a lot. And the reason I'm saying that is because we are only 3.5 months in, I personally and my team, we've had a lot of conversations, like literally dozens of conversations. Some of them have already enacted. We got building permits in place where people are like, I can actually leverage my single family home now and be able to have so much more wealth, right? Ultimately, whether they want to hold it or sell it, you have one chance to sell. And if you're just selling once and you've got your single family home, it's worth X to the open market. You put 6 homes on there, understandably, there's a higher revenue potential.
Right.
So homeowners are absolutely interested in this, and they can become, like I said, citizen developers or partner with developers and see a much higher exit price than they would if they just sold on the open market as a single family.
This is very interesting because if everything were to change multiplexes, it kind of changes what Vancouver is as a city.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
People come to Vancouver because it's a very exclusive place to live. They have large lots where they can have privacy, but having multiplexes kind of gets rid of that for a lot of the residences living in the central Vancouver area.
Yep, totally agree. So there's 2 things, right? Everybody wants affordable homes and everybody wants density unless it's their home, unless it's in their backyard. It's kind of a brutal reality, right? Like, it's just the truth. So developers are smart in this as well, right? A developer's not going to go into Point Grey, buy a $10 million teardown and put up a multiplex. There's just no demand for that, right? So we're going to see change, absolutely. We need change. And again, with anything that's sort of this monumental in size, there's going to be some NIMBYism, there's going to be pushback. That's just human nature. I think over time, we will see communities work in a way that the homes are going to be desirable. You know what I mean? It's not single family, 20 stories, single family, row home, 30 stories, you know what I mean? These are rezoned just to be multifamily, 2-3 stories, and of course they have to look nice, right? There's city guidelines to abide by as well.
Whether you're a first-time buyer, seasoned investor, or ready to sell, Prompton Real Estate Services is your go-to partner in Vancouver. Their market knowledge, personalized service, and commitment to success set them apart. Take the next step with confidence. Visit Prompton.com and let Prompton Real Estate Services help you achieve your real estate goals.
How much is there a capital appreciation opportunity in multiplexes?
That's another big question. So the uptick varies by city, and the reason I say that is, of course, every city has adopted, created, or amended their city fees. So a lot of people are like, okay, great, this is now rezoned, you've saved me a ton of money, tons of time, I should be able to make a great profit, right? Well, the city kind of recognized that, squeezed up their fees, and at the end of the day, we're not creating affordability, we're just creating density.
Right.
So is there a big uptick? Not really, right? We're seeing about 220 applications in so far in the city of Vancouver. So there is interest, but it's not like 20,000, you know what I mean?
That's a very interesting perspective. You said 220 applications?
In the city of Vancouver have been submitted for multiplex. So about 1,100 homes.
And as there's more applications submitting for multiplexes, I would imagine there's also more citizen developers. But with that, how do you guarantee the quality of a development?
I love that question. You don't, right? You can't really guarantee quality here. So it's on the consumer to have that buyer beware mentality. Go in, understand the developer, check their track record, obviously get that inspection, and you'll know if it's a good build or not. But it will obviously separate the good from the bad as well. So there's always opportunity in that. But yeah, good question. Always know your developer.
So now we understand what multiplexes are and what people should look out for. How does it really affect the city? What is a city that doesn't have multiplexes look like versus a city that has a lot of multiplexes look like?
Gotcha. Well, I'll share that I live in East Van, in Mount Pleasant. I live in a triplex, okay? And this is before multiplex was passed through. I was basically in a multiplex. And in my neighborhood right now, completely being transformed. Every single family home that is sold and torn down, obviously you're seeing multi-units go up. We are not seeing any new single family homes being built. Almost zero, literally, across the lower mainland. Some areas, like let's say even Richmond, so they adopted the legislation, but they are allowing such a small floor space ratio to be built that it's basically nothing's going to move forward, right? Developers are like, well, I can't make money if I can only build a 3,000 square foot home on 12,000 square foot lot, right? It just doesn't pencil out. So how is it going to transform cities? Slowly. And that's why I think there's going to be less shock than people think. Yes, it's a big legislation change, but like I said, it's not like tomorrow you're gonna see 1,000 homes. The system still moves very slowly here, and people and developers will still build to a neighborhood so it looks good, right? You still wanna be able to make money, so you're gonna build something that people wanna buy in a specific neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when can something become a multiplex? Like, if I have my house and a huge backyard and I build a laneway home, when does something become a multiplex?
Great question. Well, at that point, right, you already have multi-dwelling units, so you could consider that multi. The legislation, essentially, though, 3, 4, 5, or 6 is considered multiplex.
3, 4, 5, or 6.
Yeah.
But is there certain advantages building 3? If I just have my laneway home and I rent that out,
Yep.
am I not getting some of the benefits of having the minimum 3 mark?
Right,
Being a considered multiplex?
Well, I think capitalists will look at it as, okay, what is highest and best use, right? So let's say you have a lot that is legally allowed to put 6 units on it, but you're looking around and you're like, the only way I can get 6 units is if they're 800 square feet each. You're like, that's not big enough. This area, people want those 3 bedrooms, so they want 1,600 square feet. So I'm gonna build 4 units, even though I can build 6, I'm gonna build 4 so they're larger because they're more sellable, right? You're gonna build to highest and best. In some areas, like in Burnaby, you could potentially overbuild because there's no FSR cap, right? You can build as large as the building bylaws allow and up to 4 stories. But does somebody want a 3,000 square foot half duplex? Probably not, right? You're gonna overbuild, you're gonna lose your profit margin. So it's a little bit of give and take. It does take expertise. And you really just want to know the best massing study for the lot and for your neighborhood. I mean, we see people living in 390 square foot studios right now just to get started, you know what I mean, just to have that roof over their head, and that's okay. I find we have demand for every single home type in our city here, and I think that'll continue.
Right, so multiplexes, we were talking about earlier, is it's supposed to solve the housing crisis, but you were saying that all prices are also going up. Right? So there's more housing, but also more expensive, not getting cheaper.
Right.
So what do you think is the purpose of doing this?
It's density is what it is, right? Unfortunately, we have multiple levels of government that are basically flat out saying housing is going to retain its value, okay? So nobody is campaigning on lowering home prices. They're just finding strategic ways to get more people into more homes at the current market price.
Right.
So what are they doing? They're providing more housing, right? We're whatever, 2-3 million homes short across our country right now. And once those are there, people don't have to live with, 5, 7, 10, 12, 15 people under one roof, as we're starting to see more and more, especially in places like Hamilton and in Ontario. So the idea here is just to get more homes for all the people that are coming here and that are currently living here, make it a little bit more comfortable.
Now let's start talking about from a developer perspective.
Sure.
How lucrative, maybe not lucrative, how good of an investment is it to start building multiplexes at this point?
For sure. So we work with a number of developers, and when we present opportunities to them, right, we're doing land acquisition and helping all the way through to handing over the keys, we target an absolute minimum of 17% return on cost. Okay, that's kind of the pro forma minimum, and that's what most developers might see it as a baseline for things like row home development or townhome development. The exciting thing here, though, is the return on equity because of the shortened time frame. Right? If you want to go build a 6-story low-rise, it might take you 3-4 years. These things can basically be turned out in 24 months.
Right.
So as a developer, right, if you're getting a 70% return on equity, you're getting that in 2 years. So you got a 35% annualized return on equity. That's where it starts to become a little bit more enticing.
So why are not more people doing this, do you think?
Well, hey, we're 3.5 months in, right?
Okay.
They're just trying to. Why are there not more? It's very risky. It's very expensive. And the goalposts keep moving. And what I mean by that is the city fees kind of keep changing and costs keep going up, and there's just no guarantees.
Right.
That's what I mean.
You say it's very expensive in what aspect?
The cost of construction, the cost of land, the city fees that you have to pay, and currently the cost of capital, right? High interest rates are, construction loans are very expensive today compared to, let's say, 3-4 years ago.
But in terms of expensive, let's say, relatively to low-rise or high-rises, not the absolute cost, is it more expensive percentage-wise?
Than a high-rise?
Yeah, but we're not looking at flat costs, whereas if we were to compare it relatively.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, you're building homes at maybe 800 a foot all in, and you're trying to sell them for 900 a foot, right? That's kind of your margins.
And also you have less units to work with,
That's
right?
it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's give and take, right? If you're going high rise, now you're dealing with concrete, which is very expensive, but now you've got a 7-year horizon, right?
Yeah.
Here, your wood frame, you're maybe 6 units, and you can get these done in 24 months.
Also, another thing that's interesting is that if you're a developer building multiplexes, you still need some sort of sales. So are you gonna have a sales center, or are you just gonna hire a realtor to sell everything?
There's not enough revenue to justify a sales center. So yeah, if these have to be pre-sold, or at least if you're attempting to pre-sale, yeah, it's a realtor, and they're definitely having to have a strong marketing element to them, right? There are some marketing companies that have absolutely recognized that, hey, the multiplex is gonna be the future in Vancouver, so let's design marketing tools for that size project, right? So it's like you're not walking into a PC like this and it's all, you know, massive and amazing and worth a couple $1,000,000. You're doing everything online, and you can do it for 15K kind of thing.
Well, thank you, Dan, so much for coming on and teaching us about multiplexes. Where can people find you?
Yeah, please go to thevancouverlife.com or find us on YouTube, which is also The Vancouver Life.
Okay, awesome. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and check out this video.